Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be covering this talk that was given by Russell M. Nelson at the Worldwide Youth Devotional in 2018, titled Hope of Israel. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, please make sure to like it, hit the notification bell, and leave comments so we can talk about this. And I'd like to hear your thoughts. So I'm doing this. This is a few years old, but I think this was like a pretty amazing talk that was given by the prophet. And I'm bringing it up because I actually did a recent video on the September issue of the Liahona, where Elder Garrett W. Gong did a pretty awesome article about Zion. So if you haven't watched that video, I would definitely recommend to go watch that. I wanted to cover this, and I just kind of highlighted all the things that stood out to me in this talk. So it's a youth devotional. So at the time, he was talking to anyone at the time who was between the ages of 12 and 18. And these are the things that stood out to me. So right here, he says, how indebted are we to him? Talking about Joseph Smith. He is the prophet of this last dispensation. So I just found that interesting because, you know, a lot of things happened through Joseph Smith, and sometimes people wonder, well, why isn't there more that happens with like this prophet or this prophet? And it's because he was like the Moses, or he was the, you know, the head, the main prophet of our dispensation. So, you know, he's just kind of reiterating that here. Moving on, let's see. He asks, or he says, now I plead with each of you to do as the teenage Joseph Smith did. Take your questions directly to your Heavenly Father in prayer. Ask Him in the name of Jesus Christ to guide you. You can learn for yourself right now at your age how to receive personal revelation. I highlighted that because I'm sure you have heard, and I've definitely heard President Nelson talk about how important it is to be able to receive personal revelation, especially right now, and that going forward into the future, it's basically going to be impossible to survive in this gospel unless we learn how to receive personal revelation. So back in 2018, he was telling the youth to do that. He says, I promise you, not the person sitting next to you, but you, that wherever you are in the world, wherever you are on the covenant path, even if at this moment you are not centered on the path, I promise you that if you will sincerely and persistently do the spiritual work needed to develop the crucial spiritual skill of learning how to hear the whisperings of the Holy Ghost, you'll have all the direction you will ever need in your life. So again, this phrase right here, hear the whisperings of the Holy Ghost, that brings to mind the recent Hear Him hashtag and kind of like push that the church has been doing, that we need to, I mean, they're really kind of driving that home, that we need to hear Him, meaning the Lord, through the Holy Ghost. Moving on. Now, we would like to talk with you about the greatest challenge, the greatest cause, and the greatest work on earth. And we want you to be part of it. So we know that he's talking about the gathering of scattered Israel, and he's talking directly to these youth. I'm pointing this out because I've seen a number of times when prophets, even President Monson one time, and I'll have to find that clip and share it with you, but how at least since President Monson, how many times it's been stressed that it's us, we're the ones that are paving the way or are going to be here for the second coming. You know, it's like stuff like this that makes me believe that it really is going to happen within this generation. I have no doubt of that. All right, so he switches over to Sister Nelson, and she tells this little story. They were going through this kind of wooded area with all these aspen trees. I think they were on an all-terrain vehicle. which is kind of, I can't really picture that, but the prophet and his wife on an all-terrain vehicle. I mean, sure, why not? She says, when we turned a corner, I saw a tree that reminded me of how I often feel in many situations. And it shows this like really jacked up aspen tree that looks like a snake or something else. It's pretty weird. While like all the rest of them in the background, everything else like straight, just like completely straight. Do you know that feeling? You look around and everyone else is tall and straight and reaching to heaven, so to speak. They have everything figured out. They wear the perfect clothes, always seem to say the right things, have no problems, are perfectly obedient, and seem never to have made a mistake in their lives. And then, well, there's you and me. My dear brothers and sisters, it's time to stop comparing ourselves with others. It's time to put away those erroneous views of ourselves and others. The truth is that we're not as hopelessly flawed as we may think, and others are not as perfect as they may appear. All except, of course, our Savior, Jesus Christ. I like this because I feel like this touches on a topic that I cover a lot on this channel, which is narcissism. Because those narcissists that are in your life, they're the ones that really put a lot of work and effort into their appearance, right? And this is actually going to be a theme throughout this talk. They're going to touch on this a few more times, how basically we're living in a pretty fake world, a world of people, of a fallen world full of narcissists who are trying to make it seem like they have their lives together. They want to make you feel like you're lower and they're higher. There's a pecking order, and they want to try and use different methods, including the way that they dress and the way that they portray themselves on social media, to make you think that you're not as interesting as they are, and oh, look at how amazing their life is, look how much money they have, look at their social status. And this is something that you really start to learn actually as an adolescent, maybe a little bit before that there kind of is a pecking order, a social pecking order, and little cliques start to develop, and you're either in it or you're out of the clique. And when you're in the clique, you need to follow the rules, you need to dress a certain way, you need to like certain things, and that's something that teenagers struggle with, and it continues on into adulthood. I mean, maybe not exactly the same way. Sometimes there can be cliques, but narcissism doesn't. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be, no matter how old you are, narcissistic people, and it's all about appearance. So it's really cool that they're talking to the youth about this. To don't worry about them. Like, don't compare yourself. Like, just look inside yourself and make sure that you are a genuine person and that you are genuinely committed to the Savior, and so on. All right, moving on. Of course, we realize that the Lord has wisely drawn a veil over those memories. Talking about the premortal life. In fact, I should have highlighted this. So let me ask you a question. What were you born to do? How I wish you could watch a 10-minute video of your premortal life on YouTube. The prophet Joseph Smith taught that if you could gaze into heaven for 5 minutes, you would know more on a topic than if you'd studied it all your life. So just imagine if you could gaze for 10 minutes at your premortal life. Let me look at this footnote here. That takes you to Teachings of Presidents of the Church, Joseph Smith, 2007. Okay, I'll have to check that out sometime. So just imagine if you could gaze for 10 minutes into your premortal life. Of course, we realize that the Lord has wisely drawn a veil over those memories. But just for a moment, imagine the effect on your life right now if you were permitted to watch 10 minutes of your premortal life. I believe if you could see yourself living with your heavenly parents and with Jesus Christ, you could observe what you did primordially and see yourself making commitments, even covenants, with others, including your mentors and teachers. If you could see yourself courageously responding to attacks on truth and valiantly standing up for Jesus Christ, I believe that every one of you would have the increased power, increased commitment, and eternal perspective to help you overcome any and all of your confusion, doubts, struggles, and problems, all of them. So I just think that's kind of interesting. I've heard other times, throughout my life that there were probably things that we did to prepare to come to this life and possibly plan certain things out. And, in this context that they're talking about here, they're talking about essentially how we're just in the lead up to what they call the final climax of the second coming, and trying to remind everybody that, hey, we were sent here on a mission to do certain things. And you'll see what they want the youth and of course all of us to do a little bit later on here. Okay. Let's shift and talk about why you're on here on Earth at this particular time in italics, which is such a unique time in the history of the Earth. Why are you here on Earth right now? Why were you not born back in the 1880s, back during the time of the pioneers, or 30 years from now? Which is kind of interesting because I personally, I assume that the second coming will have happened by that point. I don't know if she's given us like a little hint here, or if they somewhat know. But anyway, we weren't born during the pioneer days, and we weren't born 30 years from now, which will probably be after the second coming. Let me tell you of an experience. No, this is really cool right here. Okay, this is one of the things that made me want to cover this article. This is still Sister Nelson talking. Let me tell you of an experience that taught me firsthand about the historic days in which we live. We often talk about living in the latter days. We are, after all, Latter-day Saints. But perhaps these days are more latter than we have ever imagined. Take hold of that. She said, perhaps these days are more latter than we have ever imagined. And she just talked about the 1880s. That was 50 years after the church was organized, right? And she's talking about how much latter, in these latter days, we actually are. So that's a hint, I think, that the second coming really is really close. This truth became a reality for me because of what I experienced during one 24-hour period of time that commenced on June 15th, 2013. My husband and I were in Moscow, Russia. While President Nelson met with the priesthood leaders, I had the privilege of meeting with nearly 100 of our sisters. I love our Russian sisters. They are spectacular. When I stepped up to the pulpit to speak, I found myself saying something I'd never anticipated. I said to the women, I'd like to get to know you by lineage. Please stand as the tribe of Israel that represents the lineage declared in your patriarchal blessing is spoken. Benjamin, a couple women stood. Dan, a couple more. Reuben, a few more. Naphtali, or I've also heard this pronounced Naphtali, like when you listen to the scriptures on the church website, so I don't know. Naphtali, more stood. As the names of the 12 tribes of Israel were announced, from Asher to Zebulun, and as the women stood, we were all amazed with what we were witnessing, feeling, and learning. How many of the 12 tribes of Israel do you think were represented in that small gathering of fewer than 100 women on that Saturday in Moscow? 11. 11 of the 12 tribes of Israel were represented in that one room. The only tribe missing was that of Levi. I was astonished. It was spiritually moving. It was a spiritually moving moment for me. Immediately after those meetings, my husband and I went directly to Yerevan, Armenia. The first people we met as we got off the plane were the mission president and his wife. Somehow, she had heard about the experience in Moscow, and with great delight, she said, "I've got Levi." Just imagine our thrill when my husband and I met their missionaries on the next day, including an elder from the tribe of Levi who just happened to be from Gilbert, Arizona. Now, when I was a little girl attending primary in Raymond, Alberta, Canada, I learned that in the last days before the second coming of the Savior, the 12 tribes of Israel would be gathered. That truth was thrilling to me, and at the same time quite overwhelming to wrap my mind around. So imagine what it was like for me to be with the members of all 12 tribes of Israel within one 24 period of time. I've since learned that I probably should not have asked those sisters to identify themselves by lineage because patriarchal blessings are sacred and the lineage declared in them is personal. Yet I'm so grateful for the privilege I had of seeing the fruits of the gathering of Israel firsthand. The impact of that experience has never diminished in my heart or mind. My dear brothers and sisters, these are indeed the latter days. There has never, in italics, been a time like this in the history of the world. Never. Premortally, you and I committed to do a great work while we were here on earth, and with the Lord's help, we will do it. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. So, this is really cool, and I think that she's trying to give us a hint and she said it up here. She said, where was it? Perhaps these days are more latter than we ever imagined. Okay, because I know there's some people that believe that there is an actual separate group of which the world knows absolutely nothing about because they are either, I don't know, under the ice caps or in Antarctica. Maybe they're in space. I don't know. And I'm not like trying to mock that. That's just, I'm still potentially open to that idea. But as time goes by, I tend to think that that may not be the case. And it's because of things like this. She didn't mention the 10 lost tribes by name. So maybe we're just to, read this and think, okay, well, yeah, the scattered Israel that didn't go with the 10 tribes, that's what she's talking about. And that could be, for all I know. But I don't know. I tend to lean more toward the fact that there's not really like an actual group that's going to have like a prophet that brings them, here and because like if that happened, okay, as far as I know, we're the only church that believes something along those lines. So if all of a sudden there was like this lost civilization or this lost group of people that just appeared, that would be a big hint to the entire world that our church is true. And, because that would be like a pretty stunning proof. We're the only ones that believe that, and then it happens, right? And I just can't see that happening, although, that could be the case. So I'm not going to say anything definitively because I don't know. And I don't think, anyone really knows that except for the general authorities, frankly. So I'm still open to the possibility there might be an actual, 10 lost tribes in a big group hidden somewhere on or inside the earth, but I tend not to think so. So, and I know about LDS archives too, and I've watched some of those videos, but I don't think necessarily everything there is all the way correct. But I don't know. Could be wrong. I could be wrong. So it goes back to President Nelson. My dear young brothers and sisters, these surely are, again, in italics, these surely are the latter days. And he's just reaffirming what Sister Nelson said about we're in the latter part of the last days. And the Lord is hastening his work. So as of 2018, before that, because I know that President Monson talked about it too, the Lord at that time was hastening the work, so we must be going really fast now, and I think that we are, to gather Israel. That gathering is the most important thing taking place on the earth today. Nothing else compares in magnitude, nothing else compares in importance, nothing else compares in majesty. And if you choose to, if you want to, you can be a big part of it. You can be a big part of something big, something grand, something majestic. Okay. When we speak of the gathering, we are simply saying this fundamental truth. Every one of our Heavenly Father's children on both sides of the veil deserves to hear the message of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. They decide for themselves if they want to know more. So that implies that it's not really so much us trying to like convince somebody or keep going back again and again to somebody to try and get them to join. Our job is simply to let them know. Although I don't think there's anything wrong with maybe being a little bit persistent, but you need to be careful, you need to be tactful, and you shouldn't keep like pestering somebody. You need to use good judgment when it comes to that. Those whose lineage is from the various tribes of Israel are those whose hearts will most likely be turned to the Lord. And I think that has to do with the preexistence. I think there's some sources out there to back that up. That essentially, I think that what Israel is essentially those who in the premortal life were valiant, and so they qualified to be born into certain families. And even though that may be the case, when you come to mortality, that's a much different thing than the premortal existence. Surely, just because you were amazing over there doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily perform the way that you would expect here. And there's some people that maybe weren't so great over there that when they come here, they change and then they join Israel, because we know that there are people that are adopted into Israel. So, but I think just essentially if you are from that lineage, you probably did have, you probably were in line with the Lord and the gospel and did some pretty amazing things before. And so you're probably more likely, like he says here, you're more likely to be turned to the Lord when you hear it, because you'll recognize it. Moving on, he said, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." Those who are of the house of Israel will let me start that over. Those who are of the house of Israel will most easily recognize the Lord Jesus Christ as their Savior and will desire to be gathered into his fold. They will want to become members of his church, make covenants with him and Heavenly Father, and receive their essential ordinances. The Lord told the prophet Joseph Smith that now, meaning our day, is the 11th hour and the last time that he will call laborers into his vineyard for the express purpose of gathering the elect from the four quarters of the earth. Let's see what this footnote says. It takes us to Doctrine and Covenants 33, 3 and 6. "For behold, the field is white, already to harvest, and it is the 11th hour, the last time that I shall call laborers into my vineyard. And even so will I gather mine elect from the four quarters of the earth, even as many will believe in me and hearken unto my voice." All right. Would you like to help gather Israel during these precious latter days? Would you, who are the elect, be willing to help find the elect who have not heard the message of the restored gospel? Would you like to be among those quote-unquote swift messengers of whom the prophet Isaiah spoke? And I looked at this earlier. This is Isaiah 18:2. "That sendeth ambassadors by the sea, even in vessels of bulrushes upon the waters, saying, Go ye swift messengers to a nation scattered and peeled, to a people terrible from their beginning hitherto, a nation meted out and trodden down, whose land the rivers have spoiled." All right, just think of the excitement and urgency of it all. Every prophet, commencing with Adam, has seen our day. And every prophet has talked about our day. That's in italics. When Israel would be gathered and the world would be prepared for the second coming of the Savior. Think of it. All the people who have ever lived on planet Earth, of all the people that have ever lived on planet Earth, we, in italics, are the ones who get to participate in this final great gathering event. How exciting is that? This is just more evidence that this is one of the main themes of President Nelson's presidency. And there's some interesting things that we're going to talk about in just a minute. You'll see. He really, really is about the second coming and gathering scattered Israel because of the second coming. You're going to see some pretty cool things here in just a minute. Maybe you've already heard it before, but I think that it's like really noteworthy. So just hang with me. Our Heavenly Father has reserved many of his most noble spirits, perhaps I might say his finest team, for this final phase. For this final phase. Those noble spirits, those finest players, those heroes, are you, in italics. So he's talking to this audience, the youth, back in 2018. Let's go down here. This right here is basically just a story about how the church has grown so quickly within his lifetime. He tells a story about how Spencer W. Kimball has said that we needed to be able to get into China to preach the gospel. And at the time, it was not open. Basically like it's not really right now. I don't know the whole story of China. I know that we have a temple there in Hong Kong. But whatever the case, back then, President Kimball said that they should learn Chinese. And President Nelson and his wife, he wasn't president at the time, of course, him and his wife, Dancel, they learned it. They learned Chinese. They were able to meet people in China and be able to do like these exchanges on a college level. Like he was able to go there and have somebody come here as like a guest professor. So it was like one of those weird things that a prophet asked them to do, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense, or it was like, wow, that's going to be a lot of work, but okay, I'll learn Chinese. And I'm not trying to make this argument here really, or make this video about this particular issue, but again, the first presidency did send out that email, and it could be another one of those moments. But I've done other videos about that. If you want to find out what I think about it, go check out those other videos. So, all right. My dear extraordinary youth, you were sent to this earth at this precise time, the most crucial time in the history of the world, to help gather Israel. There is nothing happening on this earth right now that is more important than that. There is nothing of greater consequence, absolutely nothing. This gathering should mean everything to you. This is the mission for which you were sent to earth. So before they were talking about if you could just see what your premortal life was like and what you planned and what you committed to do. And now he's just flat out telling them, this is what we're here for, and it makes me think back to my time in the Army. Like when you join the Army and if you get deployed somewhere, you don't just like join the Army and then you're sent to that place. You have to be qualified. Okay, so everyone is assigned a weapon system. It could be simply a pistol, or it could be an M4 rifle. It could be a machine gun. But like, they're not just like, okay, you're in the Army now. Here, you're gonna, be the machine gun person. No, you have to go to the range and you have to officially qualify before you're deployed, right? And there's other things too. Like in the Army, we have the airborne qualification, where you go to airborne school. They teach you how to jump out of planes and parachute down. You become a paratrooper. So essentially, going back to that idea of Israel, it's like for those of us that are here right now in the church, it's like we have been latter day qualified, right? I don't think we were just thrown down here during this time just haphazardly. Like, we were specifically selected, possibly trained for this very specific time period that we're in. So if you're a member of the church, I think that you can pretty much be guaranteed that you are Latter-day qualified. If we were wearing like a uniform, you'd have a Latter-day qualified badge, just like the airborne wings that they wear. Um, that's something I never got to do, but I kind of wish that I had. Anyway, so he's telling us you are qualified and chosen, and this is your mission. Okay, let's move on. We also asked these youth what they would be willing to do, or sorry, what they would be willing to sacrifice so they could help gather Israel. Again, the youth thrilled us. They responded, "I would spend less time in sports so I could help a person in need of truth. I would sacrifice hanging out with friends and instead invite them to come to the temple. I'd definitely cut down time on my phone. I'd give up some screen time. I'd even be willing to sacrifice Sunday afternoon naps." We asked, if you wanted to enlist to help gather Israel, what would you start doing or stop doing? They responded with such answers as, "I would study the scriptures more and more intently so I could answer the questions people might ask me. I would spend less time on social media, be more engaged in doing simple acts of member missionary work, including daily acts of service. I would spend less time on my phone, and when I am on my phone, I would post scriptures or other spiritual messages on social media. I would study general conference talks because they are super important. I would eat healthy food so I could stay fit. I would stop thinking everything is about me. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your answers to our questions." So I highlighted that because I've talked about this a few times already on my channel, that we are living in a day and age where there are many, many, many distractions. We're a culture saturated with entertainment and hobbies and technology and new ways to, basically just be distracted from what's important. And I've talked about how, for the narcissist, that's an even bigger problem, because everything that they do is for their image, right? So they will, for example, if they're like a sports person, they're going to gear their lives towards sports and, play football or baseball, know all the stats of all these players, do fantasy football, fantasy whatever, and just spend so much time doing just, I'm not saying that sports are bad or wrong. Like, I think that sports are good, but we can get way too much into it to the point where we're just distracted and we're not spending time doing things that actually matter, right? Because when this life is over, no one's going to care about the NFL or about sports, or if you were able to pick the right players for your fantasy football team, and if you if you came out on top in your league in 2018, like that, it doesn't matter. It's stupid. It's a fantastic waste of time, and so are so many other things. Like, the common ones that I see is so you have sports, you have mostly among my generation and younger, video games. Like, video games are a big one, and they just really suck so much time out of people. And I can think of people, like, I knew there was somebody in my family that they lost their job, they were on unemployment, and the whole time, instead of looking for a new job, they just took advantage of it and would just play World of Warcraft the whole time, just all day playing World of Warcraft, going on these really long quests where you have to get a bunch of people, and it takes hours to beat the quest. And his wife was super mad about it. And I think I've said multiple times, I think women are better than men in general. Um, just like there's more women that are good and in tune with the spirit than there are men. And in general and as a whole, they don't struggle so much with these really dumb things. Um, there's also other things like hunting, fishing, camping. Like those are all great things. I'm not saying that they're bad, but like I know people. Again, I have a family member that like that's like all his life revolves around is just hunting. Always all the time on social media. It's always all the things that he shot and um and that's cool, but he didn't end up going on a mission, even though he's gone to church and um, he hasn't gone to college. He just all he does is just hunting. And I just wonder what his life would have been like if he wasn't so into that, you know. Um, so anyway, I'm not going to go off on a whole long thing about that, but this is like pretty amazing right here. They're talking about the fact that we are getting really close to the second coming. We need to be our genuine selves, not compare ourselves to others, and fall into the narcissist trap. And then we need to not be distracted by all the many things that can distract us and not just like live these cushy lives with all these like things that just entertain us and make us feel good. Like we need to be serving and thinking and developing ourselves spiritually. So let's move on. Think of this, my dear young brothers and sisters. Right now, I am preparing for the day when I will be required to give an account to the Prophet Joseph Smith, to President Brigham Young, and others, and ultimately to the Lord about my stewardship as God's prophet upon the earth today. I do not want to be asked, Brother Nelson, why were you not more clear with the youth about their part in gathering Israel? Why were you not more bold in enlisting them to participate? So now I am inviting every young woman and every young man between the ages of 12 and 18 in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to enlist in the youth battalion, in the youth battalion of the Lord to help gather Israel. I want to stop there. This is interesting what he just said. He says, right now, I am preparing for the day when I'll be required to give an accounting to the Prophet Joseph Smith, to President Brigham Young and others, and ultimately to the Lord. Okay? What does that make you think of? As we're thinking about the second coming and the last days and certain events that are supposed to happen, the thing that comes to mind to me is Adam-ondi-Ahman, because we know that that's what's going to take place there. I don't know if it's already happened. This was back in 2018. So if that's what he was referring to, was the Adam-ondi-Ahman event, then it hadn't taken place, at least by that point. I'm still not really clear, even with everything that I've read, if like all the righteous in the church are going to be there. I know that everyone that's held keys are going to be there. So it seems like if you've held a calling of any sort, that you'd probably be there. But I don't know. But it's interesting that he says right now I'm preparing for that day, and I am just assuming that he's talking about Adam-ondi-Ahman. Maybe he just knows he's old and he's gonna pass away soon. I don't know. I don't know, but the thing that's interesting is when I saw him say this, okay, there's an article in the Atlantic that was done, that was put out in December of 2020. So just a couple years later, and and if you've read this article, then you know that this was like a pretty terrible article. It was written by this guy right here. Okay, this guy right here, named what's his name? McKay Coppins. Here on CNN, and You know, written great articles like this one. Uh, Jeb Bush, 2016's gay-friendly Republican. Um, Sorry, this is just a side note. This article was so, uh, you know, you got to read it, but you'll probably get upset. Um, he talks about just like he hardly even like he was interviewing President Nelson, but there's like very little of that interview in this entire article. It's mostly just about himself, and he hits on all the like liberal points of like what liberals want to change about the church, and you know how the church is trying to figure out its way in the 21st century, and what is it going to do? Is it going to adapt to the world and blah blah blah? Just like a bunch of just like nonsense. Again, this is who wrote it. This guy right here, who also wrote this article right here. But that's not the point of me sharing this article. So for one of those small sections that he actually included in here from his interview, quote unquote, with President Nelson, um, there's this really interesting little tidbit here. As we neared the end of our conversation, the prophet closed his binder and became quiet. Judgment Day is coming for me pretty soon, he said. It was a strange sort of confession, both startling and obvious, at least from a actuarial standpoint, and I didn't know how to respond. After another pause, President Nelson, he keeps, and I'm sure it's like probably like a journalist type practice to just like call the person by their last name, but throughout this entire article, the whole time, I did like a little search because I was trying to find this part of the article. The whole time he just refers to him as Nelson instead of President Nelson. So sorry, this whole article just like bugs me to no end. After another pause, President Nelson began to contemplate what he would have to answer for in his imminent interview with God. I doubt if I'll be judged by the number of operations I did or the number of scientific publications I had, he told me. I doubt if I'll even be judged by the growth of the church during my presidency. I don't think it'll be a quantitative experience. I think he'll want to know, what about your faith? What about virtue? What about your knowledge? Were you temperate? Were you kind to people? Did you have charity, humility? So, again, so this is like 2 times you can see that he has on his mind what he calls an imminent interview with God. So make of that what you will. I know that he's in his 90s. I can't off the top of my head remember how old he is. But so I don't know if he's just simply referring to the fact that he's probably going to pass away within the next few years, or if he's talking about Adam-ondi-Ahman. You know, here it makes it sound like it's just kind of like an afterlife review. But when you take this and couple it to what he says here about how he's going to have to give an accounting to all the past prophets and to the Lord, to me, that kind of sounds like Adam-ondi-Ahman. So make of that what you will. All right. And now I invite you to prepare yourself by doing 5 more things. 5 things that will change you and help change the world. First, disengage from a constant reliance on social media in order to decrease its worldly influence upon you. So again, just a huge distraction. It can be used for good. I think that my channel is probably good content, something that he might approve of, and other LDS channels. But you know, there's so much nonsense. Like I see some of the videos that my kids watch, and sometimes I have them like change it to a different video or just have them stop watching YouTube. But there are like the most ridiculous like TikTok videos and just like little things that people do, like doing like makeup and tricks and video game videos, and it's just like such a waste of time. Um, let's see. He says he's talking about this story that I just saw this right here. He says he now loves being free from the fake life that social media creates. Yeah, exactly. Social media is like it's a great place for narcissists because that's where they can basically put their lives on display, but not really their true lives. Because again, it's all about appearance. They're basically putting on a performance for everybody and presenting it as their real life when it's not. So, all right. So my first invitation to you today is to disengage from a constant reliance on social media by holding a 7-day fast from social media. I acknowledge that there are positives about social media, but if you're paying more attention to feeds from social media than you are to the whisperings of the Spirit, then you are putting yourself at spiritual risk. Yeah, yeah, exactly. How many people right now are actually watching for the signs of the times? How many people are too caught up with just everyday things and all these distractions? Whereas if they were listening to the Spirit, they'd be like, oh, geez, this is happening a lot sooner than I thought, and there are things I need to do to prepare, and I need to help gather Israel, and the world is about to change in a pretty spectacular way. Like the most spectacular way, honestly, in the entire history of the earth. Another downside of social media is that it creates a false reality. Yeah, right. Narcissistic reality. A false reality. Everyone posts their most fun, adventurous, and exciting pictures, which create the erroneous impression that everyone except you is leading a fun, adventurous, and exciting life. Much of that appears in your various social media feeds is distorted, if not fake. So give yourself a 7-day break from fake. Yeah. The thing that I can't stand is like when people brag about traveling as though like that's like some really life fulfilling event. Like, I acknowledge that, just like social media, there can be good things that come from that. But like some people make it seem like you're not really living life unless you've been to India and you've been to Tibet and been at the base of Mount Everest, and unless you've been to Japan and down in Australia, you're not seeing the world. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. This social media fast can just be between you and the Lord. It'll be your sign to Him that you're willing to step away from the world in order to enlist in His youth battalion. My second invitation is to make a weekly sacrifice of time to the Lord for 3 weeks in a row, to let Him know that you want to be part of His youth battalion, more than you want anything else. For 3 weeks, give up something you like to do, or in other words, a distraction, and use that time to help gather Israel. Yeah, great. My third invitation is for you to do a thorough life assessment with the Lord and perhaps with your parents and your bishop to ensure that your feet are firmly planted on the covenant path. If you've wandered off, or if there are some things you need to let go of to help your mind and heart be more pure, today is the perfect time to change. That is a key phrase right here. Heart be more pure, or in other words, Zion, to help you become Zion. So his third invitation is to become more Zion-like, Christ-like, of course, but make sure that you're someone that's going to be part of Zion. My fourth invitation is for you to pray daily that all of God's children might receive the blessings of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You and I are living to see and will continue to see Israel gathered with great power, and you can be part of the power behind the gathering. My fifth invitation is for you to stand out, to be different from the world. You and I know that you're to be a light to the world. Therefore, the Lord needs you to look like, sound like, act like, and dress like a true disciple of Jesus Christ. You guys, When I was in the Army, I did not fit in. And that's with all of us wearing the exact same uniform, right? Because I didn't smoke, I didn't chew tobacco, I didn't drink, I didn't swear. I didn't even have to like spend time with people for them to see that I didn't like smoke and drink. Just simply not swearing makes you stand out, and uh, that can be the case at school too, or various other places, and but especially in the Army. And people picked up on that. They really did. Like, I stuck out like a sore thumb. And they would ask why. And I told them why. I told them it was because I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And everyone knew. And I wasn't shy or bashful about it, because there's nothing to be shy or bashful about. I'm not embarrassed of being in this church. Um, but when you approach it in like a respectful way, and like you're just like matter of factly about it, like, oh yeah, well, it's because I'm LDS, this is what we do. People will leave you alone. Like, you just, some people, and usually it's going to be a narcissist, will try and poke and prod at you and try and get a reaction out of you. But you use the gray rock method, and if you're not familiar with that, you just make yourself become uninteresting. You don't react to what they're trying to do. So, if they're like making fun of you, or if they're like laughing at you, you just laugh along with it as though you're part of the joke. Or you just make yourself really boring. So it's like they're trying to get this rage out of you, and you don't give it to them. You just like let it bounce off you. And that's the best way to deal with narcissists, because that's what they're all about. They want to do all these things. They want to manipulate you. They want to make you look crazy. They want to get you mad. They want you to engage in debates, and you just disengage. That's all you have to do. You're not gonna convince them of anything if they're trying to debate you about something. They're gonna stick to their guns if it's a narcissist. You're not gonna convince them, so it's just a waste of time. So you disengage in a kind, tactful way, you know. But anyway, yeah, this is really important. When the fire starts burning and cleansing this world of wickedness, you do not want to look like the world, and you do not want to be part of the world. So we need to be different from the world, and we need to look, sound, act, and dress like it. The Book of Mormon, it warns about how you dress. You know, that's one of the big, frankly, that's one of the biggest ways to tell if someone is a worldly person. They're going to be up to date with all the latest trends in the way that they dress. They're going to wear expensive clothes, or if it's not expensive, whatever the style is, they're going to have it down to a T. It could be anything from wearing those hats that they have now where like the brim is all flat. Like, I think those look just so dumb. If you wear that, then I'm sorry. They're not the worst thing, but that's the style right now, and that's part of the that's part of the uniform. If you want to be cool, if you want to be in the cool army, that's the uniform. You wear that. You wear whatever. I'm not going to go into it. You know what I'm talking about. A lot of times you can spot worldly people simply by how they dress, because the way that they dress is intended to make them stand out and be in a different class from you, to be higher than you, right? So, moving on, with the Holy Ghost as your companion, you can see right through the celebrity culture that has smitten our society. Yeah, those are usually the ones that set the trends, the celebrities, and sadly, there's people that literally idolize these people, and they become these little, demigods with their little groups of fans that like give way too much attention and praise and worship to these people, when it's just like it's nothing. They're not doing anything to deserve all that. And it's just really sad. You can be smarter than previous generations have been. Yeah. And if you're sometimes called weird, wear that distinction as a badge of honor and be happy with your light. Be happy that your light is shining brightly in this ever darkening world. Yeah. And I feel like I do. Like I do not want any sort of wickedness or narcissism in me at all. I do not want to look like the rest of the world. Um, I'm not going to go to extremes, but I don't want to look like it. I don't want to feel like the world. I want it out of my house. I want it out of my body. I, I do not want 1 ounce of it. I am dreaming for the day that Zion is a reality. Like when all there is Zion, and when all there is like a celestial and terrestrial community. Okay, I am dreaming of that day, and it's not because I hate the celestial level people. It's just that I don't want to live in a world where they are able to basically ruin it like they have been for the last 6,000 years. Set a standard for the rest of the world. Embrace being different. Yeah. Okay. Now let me summarize by reviewing my 5 invitations for you to enlist in the Lord's Youth Battalion to help gather Israel. 1. Hold a 7-day fast from social media. 2. Make a weekly sacrifice of time to the Lord for 3 weeks. You could say that that's living the law of sacrifice. Like, how many things do you sacrifice in order to align yourself with the Lord and what He wants you to do? 3. Keep on the covenant path. If you're off, repent and get back on the path. 4. Pray daily that all of God's children might receive the blessings of the gospel of Jesus Christ. 5. Stand out. Be different. Be a light. Give to a friend 1 copy of the booklet for the strength of youth. My beloved younger brothers and sisters, you are among the best the Lord has ever sent to this world. As I conclude, I invite you to stand with the youth from all around the world and experience the thrill of being a member of the Lord's Youth Battalion in Zion's army. You are the hope of Israel, the children of the promised day. And then it links to this last footnote. It goes to the hymn, Hope of Israel. And I just want to read through that really quick, and then I'll finish up. So, Hope of Israel, Zion's army, children of the promised day, see the chieftain signals onward, and the battle's in array. I like this because this is like a very kind of like militaristic type hymn. And, I enjoyed my time in the army. It was hard, but, I like that. I like being in a warrior mindset. See the foe in countless numbers, marshaled in the ranks of sin. Hope of Israel, on to battle. Now the victory we must win. Strike for Zion, down with error. Flash the sword above the foe. Every stroke disarms a foeman. Every step we conquering go. As the army goes marching along. Soon the battle will be over. Every foe of truth be down. Or as the army goes rolling along. Soon the battle will be over, every foe of truth be down. Onward, onward, youth of Zion, thy reward, the victor's crown. And then the chorus is, Hope of Israel, rise in might, with the sword of truth and right. Sound the war cry, watch and pray. And I do hope that we're all watching. I hope that if you're coming to this channel, you become someone who becomes a watcher for the second coming. Vanquish every foe today. So I think there were a lot of really interesting elements of this talk. A lot of gems, and I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope you come out realizing that it really seems like President Nelson and all the general authorities are really trying to drop hints in Also, not just hints, like they're flat out saying that the main focus right now is the second coming because it's close, because it's really close, um, to the point where he felt the need, or he was directed to organize a youth battalion. And I know that he's brought that up several times, like it's an actual thing, the Lord's youth battalion. Um, it's a very interesting concept, and he's being for real. This is the real deal, and I think that he really is preparing for Adam-ondi-Ahman. I think that President Nelson, expects to be the prophet at the time of Adam-ondi-Ahman. That's just what I get from this. Let me know what you think. I know some of you are going to reference LDS archives too, and that's cool. Put that if you like. You know, I'm open to whatever the truth is, and if you have something that could like enlighten me, then please share it. Anyway, I'm just going to end it right here. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Like this video if you liked it. Hit the notification bell. Please do leave comments and let me know what you think about this talk, and if there was anything that jumped out at you. I have a lot more content that's going to be coming out. I'm going to be watching for the signs of the times, watching church news, watching for disasters in the world as they happen. But I'm also going to be talking about narcissism, and I'm going to throw in some homestead videos as well. So I'll talk to you next time.